I'm Pat Brown, and welcome to Believers Beyond Bondage. I'm hoping to make you a believer that is free from the bondage of lies, of corruption, of the law, all things bondage, and walk in your integrity and freedom in the Messiah, Jesus Christ. I'm going to start by saying Babylon is not only a place, it's a system. It's a place and a system, kind of all in one, or a place that runs this system, right? The Babylonian system, and more than one place that runs the Babylonian system. But if something walks like a duck, talks like a duck, looks like a duck, it's going to be a duck. We're going to talk about recognizing Babylon. Let's get into it. When we look at this, that the violent take about force, and we look at this nation, does it match the Babylonian system to take by force, to enslave people that you come across, to impoverish? That's the Babylonian system. Does this nation look like and resemble it? And if so, what other nations do? What other nations do? Colonizers go about it. So-called trying to spread something where all they spread is death and destruction and greed. Right? So scripture says this in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods. These are the true Hebrews here, the true descendants of Abraham. He says, and the Lord shall scatter you from among all people. So God's giving them a pronouncement. Why? Because of disobedience. He says he's telling you what's going to happen. But listen to this. What's going to happen to God's real blood descendants, physical descendants. Not only are they going to be scattered from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there they shall serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. It lets you know that when you get scattered, which people did in the transatlantic slave trade, when you go to all these different places, the gods you're going to encounter there aren't the original gods your father served. Listen to what I just said. When you get there, when you get to these different places, the gods you're going to serve are not the same gods that your fathers or you as a people known in the past. In other words, the Babylonian system is there to get you to worship fake gods, false gods, imitations of the real God, imitations of true Christianity, imitations of God's true Torah, his first five books of the Bible, imitations of that. Now you'll get what from that? The Kabbalah. What do you get from that? You get all kind of books and writings and imitations, and they spun out of control. They spun out of control. All right, the Talmud. All right, people that want to go back to the original, but these are not the original writings of God. Man wrote them. The Kabbalah and the Talmud. Man wrote this. The original writings are still there for us to look at. They're still there for us to look at. And not only do they do that and continue to add, they even add other books. Even add other books. So that what you worship today is not the original of what they worshiped back then. It's imitation. It's false. It's not the true church. It's an imitation church. It's not the true faith. It's an imitation faith. You can call it Christianity if you want. That's fine if you mean followers of Christ, the Messiah, the true God, the Father in heaven, right? His Son, all that. You can, if you want to, but let's not get it twisted. There is a Christianity today that is false, that is a European and a anti-Christ, anti-Christian, you use the word Christian, imitation of the true way of God. Now, people know me know I consider myself a follower of the way. Right? People know me, know that I consider myself a disciple of Christ. People know me, know what I consider myself. Most people that I know still call themselves Christian. Fine, if what you mean is a follower of the Messiah. All right. Some people use the word Christian because they mean Christ-like. If you are Christ-like, fine. However, people are gonna get that twisted nowadays. If you call yourself a member of the church, people will get that twisted nowadays for the imposter because the real is slender. There's a few group of people following them. The imposters is wide. There's a whole bunch of people following them, namely the Roman Catholic Church and the Protestant Church. Right? Them are the imposters. They're not the real. The church that we see, it's not the true church. It's part of the system of Babylon in a place that follows the system of Babylon, in a world that follows the system of Babylon. All right? Antichrist. Right. So let's keep going. The Bible warned that when you get there, you are going to be following someone else, not the true religion you grew up with or your father grew up with. Right. And they're going to somehow sneak it in to where you uh, did not realize the switcheroo that what you're following is not the real thing. All right. So when we look at this and we look at what they're going to continue to do, when I say they, Babylon, the Babylon system, recognizing Babylon, all right, what they want to do also is, just like in Daniel chapter 1, verse 7, let's go there. This is the new iteration of Babylon. It's a new iteration. The old iteration is what God had to divide up and change their names. And the king spake unto Aspenaz, the master of the eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes, children of whom was no blemish, but well favored, and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning, in knowledge, and understanding, science, and such as had the ability in them to stand in the king's palace. Bring me the smartest, most brightest young men of the Hebrews you can find. And when they had, and bring them to stand before me in the palace, and when they, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans, so that we can teach them our ways, our customs, and our language. All right. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. This is some kind of apprentice training program that the king had set up. And he set these young men in front of him, and they did this for 3 years before they, after the end of the 3 years, they would stand before the king, and the king was going to observe them and see what kind of men they were they worthy for leadership roles. Now, among these were of the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. These were the Hebrew names of the boys that were standing in front of him. We know them as Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now notice what he's going to do in the next verse. When we see these names, now people don't recognize these names because they know them as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They recognize Daniel, but not the rest. All right? What happened? Why do we call them that? Verse 7. Unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names. For he gave unto Daniel the name of Belshazzar, and to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego. So he changed their names. Why? He gave them Babylonian names. He changed their Hebrew names to Babylonian names. Why? That's what Babylonians do. In the Babylonian system, the person who was the conqueror changes the name and the identity of the conquered. Do we know a place that changed the name of the people? that they conquered, that they enslaved, so that they could forget who they were, that they could change their identity. Do we know a place and a system that does that? I think we do. Anybody remember Kunta Kinte and Toby? Or Toby and Kunta Kinte? Same person, two different names. Who did that to him? What system was he in or under? Why do they do that? So that you can forget your name, your language, your heritage. Why do they do that? The reason for this is because their names meant something and they know it. Daniel is God is my judge. Hananiah is the Lord is gracious. Let me see, what's the other name? Mishael is who is like God. Azariah means the Lord helps. All of these names of these Hebrew names has something to do with the Lord, their God. However, what they wanted to do, what the Babylonians wanted to do, is make their names represent their God. Belteshazzar is the treasure of Baal, false god. Shadrach is the command of Aku, their moon god. Meshach is what? Who is what Aku, the moon god again. And Abednego is servant of Nego, means servant of Nego. So what they want to do is take the names of the Hebrews that was uplifting their God, the true God, the living God, and put a Babylonian spin and twist on it to take us from the real and put us under idols. That is the Babylonian system. They want you to fully be assimilated into the Babylonian system, not your old system. What? What did the Bible say? And you are going to serve a God you had not known. You nor your fathers had known. You're going to be in a system that you and your father hadn't known before. Right? So they're going to change your identity in the Babylonian system. Not only that, in Daniel chapter 3, we see this. Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold whose height was 60 cubits and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon at this time. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king set together the princes, the governors, and the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Now, every important person there was in the kingdom, in the provinces, he had come for this dedication. Of what? This golden image. What do I mean? This imitation God. This idol. What does the Babylonian system do? It wants you to bow down to idols, to imitation gods. The Babylonian system, again, the true God that you left behind in the place of your that in the place you were captured from. Now they want you to serve their God, which is a false God and an idol. It's an idol. Any false God is an idol. What are the idols that we see today here? Again, recognizing Babylon. Some people's idols is, now notice here, this idols made of gold, money, wealth, something valuable. Some people value their jobs. Some people value their families over the true God, their jobs over the true God, their houses over the true God, their cars over the true God. Some people will work 60, 70 hours a week and won't have time to pray or talk to God or meditate or spend time with their family. Some people think their wife or their husbands is the all end all be all. And nothing wrong with loving your families. But anything you put in front of God is an idol and is a problem. Right? Nothing wrong with loving your family or working hard. But if you put so much emphasis and stress on it, some people sports is their idol. There's a whole bunch of idolaters here in the United States where I'm living. And there's a whole bunch of idols different idols that people put in front of the living and true God. Okay? Whole bunch of people on Sunday, that's all they do is like football, 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 but no time for the living God. Some people, again, they're children. It's good to love your children. It's better than not loving your children, which we have examples of all over the place. But anything, and I mean anything, you put in front of the living God, it has become your idol, and you have become an idolater. This place, especially when it comes to things of wealth, money, making money, people working, and houses and cars and jewelry and fine things, for the most part, has become people's idols. The so-called quote American dream has become people's idols. Where to get these three boats, or this certain figure income, or the certain status symbol at the job has become people's idol. Right? Not God, not the true living God. So therefore, you are now worshiping things that your fathers did not worship. Right? Notice here. Right? So Babylonian system wants to put you under idolatry. Wants to put your focus and your mind and your meditation and all your focus on a certain thing, namely money, job, wealth, things like that, status. Namely that here in America. Why? Well, it should be obvious to you at this point who Babylon is and what system is it under today. Recognize Babylon. Can't you recognize Babylon? Right? A place where they try to reach God by their own efforts, right? Their own rules, their own way. A place that desires to do the opposite of what God commands. A place that wants the world to envy it and wants to be the center of the world, the financial center of the world. A place who wants to put God's people back into captivity, right? A place that want to take your identity away from you and have to a vast amount of people living here, don't know who they are and where they come from because their identity has been stolen. So not only does Babylon want to change your identity, next it wants to put you under a system of idolatry, a bunch of false churches, of false religions, of false narratives. All right? And if that's not enough, wants you to idolize money in itself. The idea of making money and being rich is what people seek after, to the point that God is forgotten or put on the back burner. All right? Do we know a place like that that fits all these narratives, all these instruments, all right? And it wants to give you a God of gold. In other words, money. The God that they want you to worship is money. Even those that are supposed to be your spiritual guide to lead, when you look at them, they want you to worship money. Give to me, and God gonna bless you with 100-fold. Give to this ministry, sow a seed here, and God gonna bless you with this. Sow a seed here, and God gonna make you a millionaire. Sow a seed here, and you gonna get that car you want. So even the false teachers that's under this false system want you to worship what? The same thing they do. Money. Do we know a place like that that fits all of the narratives of Babylon and the Babylonian system? Yes, we do. Babylon is the US of A. And the Babylonian system that it follows is capitalism. We put money over people. Money is the end all be all of capitalism. And that's the system that the United States runs. It's capitalism. Do you not know that without capitalism, there would be no such thing as slavery? Why? Capitalism seeks to make the most return, okay, the most return out of the least amount of effort or the least amount of goods. And the best way to have the most return out of the least amount of expenditures of pushing any money out is to pay people little. If I can make so much profit and then pay you so little, instead of paying $20, I'll pay you $5 an hour. Well, guess what? I'm going to, if the thing's worth $20 and I pay you five, then I profit 15. If the thing is $20 and I pay you 10, I profit 10. However, if the thing is 20 and I pay you nothing, I profit 20. The best way in capitalism to capitalize off someone else's pain, hard work, suffering is to pay them nothing. And that's why slavery existed. Because we were in a capitalistic society living in the land of Babylon. I'm Patrick Brown, and I hope that lesson, recognizing Babylon, hit home. And you understand why the United States is running is the leader of a Babylonian nation. Right? It's one of the leads now. They're not the only Babylonian nation out there, but they are again number one uh, figure, a villain out there that's running the system of Satan. It's a satanic system. I'm Pat Brown. Hope you were blessed by that lesson.